Thank you for joining me to learn more about mindfulness, research, and best practices. I'm Kimberlee Bethany Bonura. You can learn more about me and my work on the web at drkimberleebonura.com, chairyoga.com, and pelvicyoga.com. You can find me on Facebook at Dr. Kimberlee Bonura and on Twitter at Dr. K. Bonura Yoga. If you want to stay updated for when I post new videos, then like this video and subscribe to my channel. By continuing with the video, you, the viewer, are agreeing to and accepting the terms of the provided waiver of liability. We'll get started in 1 minute, just giving another minute of time in case anyone else arrives before our start time at 10:10. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Kimberlee Bonura, and we're here this morning to talk about family wellness through mindfulness. You may hear a bit of background noise. I'm in Southern Virginia, and we're feeling the last bits of the hurricane. It's still raining. Appears to be a tree tapping against the roof of the house, which probably is what sounds like a horse nearby, and it seems like the seagulls are starting to come back out. So that must be a nice sign that the weather is starting to settle down. Hopefully I'll have internet throughout the internet and electricity throughout the session so that we continue all the way through. My lovely colleagues Nina Spadaro and Rives Thornton were not able to join us today. We made a decision together as a team to mindfully support family connectedness. Nina's son was married yesterday, and we wanted to make sure that she and Rives, her partner, were able to spend time with the family this morning, and it's very early in California for them. So they were not able to join, but we've worked together on the presentation and met to talk through and ensure that I'm presenting our shared perspective today about some creative strategies for integrating mindfulness into family wellness through meditation, yoga, and martial arts education. All of us are practitioners of mindfulness strategies. Nina and Rives predominantly in the martial arts, but also yoga. And I've been a yoga instructor for 2 decades, just as they've been martial arts instructors for several decades. So initially, let's talk about what mindfulness is. Essentially, mindfulness is an attention training practice. Sometimes we think about mindfulness as sitting, having to meditate, sitting on a cushion, but really mindfulness is just about learning to be where you are right now. And so it allows you to consider and engage with multiple perspectives. And a big part of mindfulness is about acceptance, about non-judgmental attitude. So in the midst of bad weather and a hurricane, instead of sitting down and being stressed and wishing you had different weather, you acknowledge, I am in a storm. And the thing that's beneficial about that is that it helps teach families, it helps teach children to be where they are, because where you are is where you can solve whatever problems you may have. So if you're feeling sad, you're feeling sad, and you accept that. You don't judge it, you don't try to change it. You sit in that moment and accept that right now you have this emotion, this feeling, this situation. And that allows you to identify those inner strengths and work towards acceptance, work towards compassion. A nice thing to remember as you work with families, work with children, is to make it clear that mindfulness is a universal practice. It's also a secular practice. It does not have to be associated with religion. We see aspects of mindfulness in all of the major religions around the globe. And so you can help people to feel accepting and to understand that they can try mindfulness, whatever their religious orientation is. I've taught yoga and meditation classes in Southern church communities where perhaps they were concerned about they didn't want to do yoga, but when we talked about meditation and mindfulness as a way to clear their mind so that they can better work on their faith, then they were very open to that and found that it did in fact provide that stress management benefit. And so I think depending on what part of the country you're in, it's important to be aware that some people may be worried if mindfulness is something that might interfere with their religious beliefs, and to give them that perspective of it being a universal secular practice that can help them to learn control of the mind, learn to train their attention, and then they can use that to support whatever their faith is. But ultimately, mindfulness is training in attention, and there's some very lovely research about how it works with children, with families. You may have seen in the news recently a school district in the Northeast that has replaced detention with a mindfulness room, where when children feel that their energy is starting to get out of control, they can choose to go in there and sit down and find a quiet space. And the school district has found that they're reducing behavioral problems through that approach. So it's a lovely way to teach children how they can be reflective and control their own awareness just by becoming aware of what's going on in their minds. So if you've got some food with you, it's breakfast time in many parts of the country. If you've ever done a meditation class or an intro to mindfulness, you may have already done this exercise, but it's a fun one to do. And it's great to do with children, with adolescents, if they don't have experience with mindfulness. So this is a picture of a raisin, because usually the activity is called the raisin awareness activity, which is a bit of a pun, raising awareness, raisin awareness. I love to do this activity with a little bite of chocolate, because who doesn't love to have a bite of chocolate? And if a child has a dairy or a tree nut allergy, you can still find an allergen-free chocolate. And you have the person work with you to reflectively actually be aware of the food that they're eating while they're eating it. And there's so much insight out there about, if you're not aware of what you're eating, how that impacts your health, your wellness. There's been some very lovely studies about people with weight problems, if instead of focusing on food, you focus on mindfulness. There's been some very interesting research where mindfulness yoga practices help people lose weight without doing cardio, without changing their diet, just helping people to relax and be mindful. It has such an impact on stress eating. It has such an impact on actually noticing when you're full. And so pay attention as you go throughout your day, as you eat your meals. How often are you really aware of what you're eating, and how often are you just eating on autopilot, quickly eating your food while you do emails at your computer or are in a meeting, those sorts of things. So a mindfulness eating exercise is a way to break that pattern and to actually begin to be aware of your food. So if you've got something with you, take a very small tiny piece of raisin or granola bar or a single flake of cereal, whatever it is you have, and actually just put it in your hand. And again, this is how you would do the activity if you were doing it with children or with a family. You put it in, you have them each put a small piece of food in their hand, and just start by noticing it, being aware. What does it look like? What do the textures look like? What colors do you see? Is it ribbed or is it smooth? Are there variations in color? Is it all brown if it's a raisin, or is there a little bit of red and a little bit of black and a little bit of some white spots? So you're really paying attention to what it looks like, using first your visual sense. And then perhaps you move to your smell, and you are sniffing it and getting a sense of, is it one clear smell, or are there undertones? If you're using chocolate, again, that's a great one, because chocolate may have different scents based on where it was grown. Does it have some undercurrent of pepper? Does it have undercurrent of a different herb? So you're allowing them to really reflect on that sensory experience of sight and of smell, noticing that food is more than just chewing. It's also using your other senses. And then once you put it in your mouth, instead of just chewing it, just letting it sit on your tongue for a moment, letting it dissolve a bit, trying to take several minutes to really chew and notice the sensations, the tastes, and being aware of the food that you're eating. And so you might spend 5 minutes with a single square of chocolate. Yes, we could all use some chocolate right now. I know. We should have, in the invitation, said everyone bring a square of chocolate with you. So you're using that time to really reflect on what is the full sensory experience of food. And the point of the activity is to help you be aware, right now, I'm eating chocolate. There's a lovely saying in the meditation world that says, when you're washing dishes, wash dishes. And the point is that anything can be a mindfulness activity if you're really doing it when you're doing it. So if you're eating chocolate when you eat chocolate, instead of just shoveling M&Ms in your mouth while you're watching a video, then eating chocolate becomes a mindfulness activity because you're in the moment, aware of what you're doing while you do it. And that's a great, concrete, tangible way to teach present moment awareness, mindfulness to children. So, as we talk about mindfulness, why is it necessary? Well, I think when we look at families, parents need mindfulness for a lot of reasons, and in particular because modern life is very stressful. And mindfulness can help parents to be more fully present to their children at a child's pace. So if you have to walk your child to school and you're rushing to get everybody's backpacks packed, you're rushing to get everybody's shoes on and out the door, and you've got a 7-minute walk to school and the bell is going to ring in 8 minutes, you have to rush. There's no time to stop, to notice the trail of ants across the sidewalk, to notice the flower in the yard. And of course, anyone who has younger children know that as you take a walk for children, they will notice all of those things and they will want to stop and do them. But parents who are trying to meet timelines and deadlines and schedules might be rushing to and miss all of those moments of awareness of what's in the moment right now. And instead, the parent is looking at the watch and focused on that the bell is going to ring. So if you allow some time and space and you help parents to find those opportunities where they can build time in to be fully present at a child's pace, that allows that parent-child connection. And that can be very transformative for a relationship because instead of the child being rushed with the parent is paying attention to the world from the child's perspective. And so without having to spend a lot of money and go to Disney World, you can have a lovely connective experience between parent and child. It offers respite from the tension of everyday life just by building in time that you can be present right here, right now. So it's a great strategy for parents to engage with mindfulness as a way to improve the interaction within their families. And I appreciate all the commentary you all are sharing on the left side. It's helpful to see the perspectives that each of you are sharing about when you use exercises, the things that you can relate to, the things that are helpful. And feel free to pop questions up there. We'll have question and answer time at the end, but if there's something in the moment that you don't want to forget, I am paying attention and being mindful of your commentary on the side as well. So parents who practice mindfulness often have decreased tension. It can absolutely increase connection between parent and child, and it can provide parents and children a needed break from the stress of the everyday world. It also allows the parent and child to have an increased sense of compassion and understanding for each other. And I think coaching parents to be reflective of the wording that they use, to say to their children, I am beginning to feel stress. I am feeling worried right now. So that the children can get that emotional learning about that parents have feelings too, and that that's part of being human, and that it's important to be aware of what you're feeling and how your feelings impact other people. So it can improve the communication between parent and child. It also allows the parent to begin to change their perception of stress from a threat to a challenge. And there's some very interesting research emerging about stress and mindsets and how our mindset about stress in particular can be very impactful of the way stress affects us. That when we view stress as a negative thing, when we view stress as something that reduces our health, reduces our quality of life, it actually does have those negative impacts. But when we view stress as something that offers us opportunity for growth, as a challenge to be overcome, as reflective of the things and meaning that are meaningful in our lives, then stress takes on a different perspective and we feel more powerful with how we engage with stress. So our mindset is very important, and mindfulness is very, very powerful in changing the way we see the world. Yes, I see the note about commuting, and commuting is absolutely it can be a very stressful place for parents. But if you work to take that time as an opportunity for mindfulness, for self-awareness, using it to focus, to have a sense of quiet in your car instead of just playing the radio and just letting the time pass, instead using it purposefully, you can transform some of that commute time to be an opportunity for mindfulness practice. Children, of course, also need mindfulness because modern life is stressful in ways we may not consider. We look back on our childhoods, especially if we grew up before the internet and before, I remember there were 3 TV channels and no internet until I went to college. And so things were calmer and quieter. You didn't text your friends while you were waiting for your parents. If your parents were late picking you up for something, you looked at clouds, or you climbed a tree, or you talked to the other kids around you. But children today are stimulated constantly, and they need to be taught how to filter that stimuli. They need to be taught how to stay centered, even in the midst of the frantic world. And so mindfulness can be a very, very powerful way to do that. It can give children skills, opportunity. It's an opportunity for children to overcome a challenge. Absolutely. It's a way for them to learn how they can control what they're doing, what they're thinking, and what they're feeling. It allows them to notice, oh, I'm feeling frazzled right now. And what can I do with that sense of feeling frazzled? So teaching children mindfulness is about giving them a very powerful tool for self-control, for self-awareness. And that improves their quality of life as children, and it improves their overall lifetime quality of life. There's a great deal of research, mindfulness practice, meditation practice, yoga, the martial arts. They all show improvements for children in attention, mood, self-regulation, self-esteem, improved behavior, reduced outbursts, increased social competence, overall general well-being, and academic performance. There's a great deal of research. And I mentioned at the beginning of the session a school district that's using mindfulness to replace detention, school districts that incorporate mindfulness strategies into the physical education curriculum. They can really offer powerful benefits for children, both typically developing children and children who have challenges. There's a great deal of research for children with ADHD, attentional challenges, that they can drastically improve their ability to control their attention and their focus when they learn mindfulness strategies. So a nice simple exercise I'd like to do right now, and that's great to do with children, is just belly breathing. And it's helpful to remind people of what a baby looks like when a baby is sleeping. If you watch a baby laying on their back sleeping, you see their little belly rise up with a big inhalation. It's a big puffy balloon. And then when they exhale, their tummy goes all the way in. And anyone who's ever had a newborn who, your first child, you're a bit worried and scared, and you watch the baby breathe while the baby's sleeping. If the baby's too quiet, because you're afraid that when the baby's too quiet, that's a bad sign. So you watch and you see that little tummy rise and fall, and it's very reassuring. As we get older, as we become adults, we begin to be concerned about how we look, and we suck our tummies in, and we don't want our tummies to puff out, and so we stop breathing well, and that impacts how we feel. It means that we get less air in, and we feel more stressed even as we're breathing, because instead of breathing deeply, we're controlling our lower abdomen with breath. And so a great way to get children initially to re-engage, and I always do this with adults also, because I think adults are even farther away from good breathing strategies, is to focus on belly breathing. And the simplest way is to be on the floor, on your back, or on a bed if that's more comfortable, and to place your hands on your tummy. And if you're seated, that's fine as well. But wherever you are, you place one hand over your navel and the other one on top. And when you inhale, your hands, if you're on your back, should rise. If you're seated, should go out, because your stomach should expand and it should push your hands out. And the way that that's working is that you're breathing deep into the lower lobes of the lungs. And so your abdomen is expanding and you're breathing and filling your body with air. And then as you exhale, you're pushing your belly button back to the spine to push the air out of your body. And a very simple practice is to just spend 10 minutes doing a deep belly breathing and paying attention to how does your body feel. As you breathe deeply, how does the tension in your neck start to dissolve a little bit more, just from the simple act of relaxing your mind, your body, and getting breath in and breathing very deeply. People will be very surprised the first time you do this with them, that after 10 minutes of just deep breathing, they feel more relaxed. Their neck feels less tense. Their backs feel softer, and they're very surprised. How do I get all those benefits just from breathing? But of course, deep breathing is fundamental to health, to well-being, to mindfulness practice. And so it's a great activity to start people out about thinking about mindfulness. And all of the meditative, contemplative mindfulness practices, yoga, the martial arts, meditation, all of them use breathing practice at their core because of how fundamental breathing is to awareness and mindfulness and present moment centeredness. And the nice thing with children, if you teach them how to do this, you can then work with them that 30 seconds of a breathing strategy can be a way for them to calm their mind if, for instance, they're about to take a test and they're feeling very frazzled. Do 2 or 3 deep breaths to recenter. There's a great question. Can this cause dizziness if you haven't practiced any kind of breathing before? That's a great insight. Absolutely. I would say I've done a lot of work with yoga with older adults in living facilities and community centers. And I would, in those situations, I'm always working in a chair-based format, not laying down. So their head is remaining elevated because they're sitting upright. And I, generally speaking, if I was working in a chair-based yoga class with older adults or with people with a heart condition in a hospital setting, I'd probably only do 1 or 2 minutes initially. I'd give some precaution beforehand, that deep breathing. You might feel a little bit dizzy. Your fingers might feel a little tingly if you haven't done this before, and to be mindful of that. And if you need to open up your eyes, stop, alert me, let me know. There are also other breathing strategies from yoga, some of the fast inhalations and things like that can be great strategies with children, but you do have to be mindful that there are some contraindications for people who are pregnant, people who have heart conditions. And so if you're working with extended breathing practices, you really need to review the literature and the contraindications to make sure you're doing it in a safe way. Great question. Thank you. So lots of creative strategies that you can integrate mindfulness training into your practice with children and parents. You can try some yoga strategies. You could do body scans where you have the child and parent start being aware at the top of the head, and then you're aware of the eyebrows and you're aware of the eyelashes. And for kids, you can have it be very funny and very silly, and that's a good thing because sometimes we think of meditation as this very serious thing where you sit on mats and everyone's very calm and centered. But the reality is it's supposed to be about being in the moment and being aware and about creating a sense of joy through that. The Dalai Lama has said that the whole purpose of life is happiness. And so that's a lovely reminder that meditation doesn't have to be serious. It can be fun and lighthearted and a way to engage with joy with life. So if you're working with small children, try to have them become aware of the fingernail on their left pinky and become aware of their right upper eyelash. Fun things that they might giggle about, but that get them thinking about, how am I feeling right now? And that engaging with their body in a fun way can make this very child-friendly. You can also do guided meditations and the mindfulness-based eating that we did earlier. And of course, the martial arts are wonderful strategies for integrating mindfulness training with children and parents. When you're teaching mindfulness, consider the context, because you'll be teaching it differently if you're doing a community class, if, for instance, you're offering this at a local YMCA or a local library, versus if you're in the school setting, perhaps a local elementary school or high school has invited you in to do a one-time workshop or a series of courses, or if you're doing a class at a hospital as part of a health prevention program or a health promotion program. There are certainly hospitals that integrate mindfulness strategy into care programs. Some cancer treatment centers will use complementary programs to support well-being while they're doing treatment. And of course, if you're doing this in the context of one-on-one therapy or family therapy as a mental health provider, you need to be mindful of the context and how you interact based on that, of course. Always engage the child and the parent so that you are supporting that connection between child and parent. And remember that the experience should be valuable and supportive, but it should also be fun. It should be something that the child enjoys, because that's the way that the child is going to want to continue to practice it. And the other thing that's really important, and this is, I think, the place that perhaps parents may struggle the most, is to acknowledge authentic emotion. All emotions are valid. We are not saying with mindfulness that you shouldn't be angry or that you shouldn't be sad or that you need to control your emotions. We are saying you need to be aware of all of your emotions. You need to learn to control how you express your emotions. If you're angry, that is absolutely valid and appropriate. It's not valid or appropriate to then hit your sister or scream terrible things at your mother. But the anger is appropriate. The anger is what you're feeling, and you need to acknowledge that. So we teach children to control the ways they express their emotion, but we also teach them that feeling their emotions is always okay and appropriate and valid. And so I think sometimes parents, particularly if they have a background of feeling like they have to control their emotions, may need some coaching and support to be okay with the idea that all emotions are valid. And so we coach and support and help the parents to be comfortable with those dark emotions too, so that then they can learn to work with their children on the expression component. But again, acknowledging all emotions are valid. So Nina and Rives had some strategies in particular to share around family kung fu classes, ways that mindfulness can be active, that the martial arts use mindfulness within the physical activity. So instead of sitting down, you have body awareness while you're moving. You're interacting physically with someone else, and you have to be aware of your surroundings, aware of your actions upon others. So if you're in a sparring practice where you're practicing back and forth with targeted hits and targeted punches as part of the martial arts class, you're aware of where is my fist, where is someone else's foot. And that awareness teaches you to be centered in the present moment and aware of how your body is moving and how other people are moving. And that can be very helpful training for being in the present moment. Some games that they had that families can play, that you can teach families to practice on their own. So standing ready to dodge or block. One activity with that would be you have people in a circle and there's somebody in the middle. And so the person in the middle is perhaps attacking out at the others, maybe using a ball or a balloon, and the person in the middle is acting randomly, so that as they move, as they throw a balloon at one person in the circle, that person has to be ready to catch the ball, to be paying attention to what's going on. And it's an exercise in attention and reaction time. Another discrimination and reaction game is the two colored balloons block or capture. So perhaps you identify that pink balloons are going to be positive and white balloons are going to be negative. And so people in the game are throwing balloons at each other, and you want to block the negative ones and you want to catch and hold the positive ones. And you talk about that in a way of bullying, and that you're thinking about keeping with you things that feel good and blocking and not accepting things that hurt. And so you just assign those colors. And again, it's about reaction time, it's about awareness, it's about paying attention to stimuli in your situation. Another lovely activity that they do is having people punch through newspaper. So somebody's holding a newspaper out and a partner is using their breath to try to punch through a newspaper. And what they've shared is that people are often surprised that it's very hard to punch through newspaper because it's flexible. And so it's a great lesson, an opportunity to talk about that sometimes things that seem like they'll be easy, just punching through paper, might actually be more challenging, and that you have to really focus and be deliberate and mindful of how you're focusing your energy as you punch through. And also that being flexible can be a great strategy for resilience in other areas of your life. Some other mindfulness activities, listening with eyes closed. So you have sort of like a game of hide and seek, but one person has their eyes closed and then the other person is very carefully walking up behind them. And both people are trying to be aware because the walking partner is trying to come as quietly as possible so as to not be detected. And the person who has eyes closed is trying to listen as carefully as they can so that they can notice the walking partner before the person gets to them and puts a hand on their shoulder. So you're listening very, very carefully. And again, it's that training of attentional awareness, of being here now and noticing the stimuli. Sticking hands with a partner is an activity where two people are together, hold face to face, hands in contact. And it's a bit like a ballroom dance where you're trying to, one person is leading and the other person is trying to pay attention and follow their hands. So this could be a great activity maybe where the child leads the direction and the parent has to follow how the child takes the hand very intuitively, so that they can get that sense of connection and that sense of movement together without using words. And another activity is to work with children to identify a calming spot in their physical environment, a place that they can go to when they need to be quiet, calm, and centered. And then you talk with them about why that space was calming, why that space helps them to feel better, and then to work on visualizing that calming space so that they gain a sense of control, that they can always go there in their mind whenever they need to. Some strategies that you can bring mindfulness into daily life. First, really emphasizing that every moment is an opportunity to be mindful. You never have to meditate. You just need to be where you are, wherever you are. So when you're brushing your teeth, you're brushing your teeth, aware of the taste of the mint and the bubbles in the mouth. When you're showering, you're in the shower, feeling the water. You're not thinking about your to-do list. You're not off for a million different things. You're in the shower with the warm water, the scent of whatever's in your shampoo being present right now. A lovely comment that just popped up about sitting in traffic can be a great moment for mindfulness. Yes, if you are in traffic, instead of being angry at the people ahead of you and behind you, just be there in the moment. Try to notice the sky, notice the clouds, pay attention to your breath. Wherever you are is an opportunity to be mindful. You do, however, need to make some space in your life for quiet. You don't always need a soundtrack. Resist the urge to always put on the iPod or the radio or the earbuds. Sometimes just allow quiet so that you can hear your environment, the wind, the trees, the birds. It allows you to be grounded right here. You might actually place some reminders to breathe in key spots. You could, for instance, help your child put a note to breathe in a lunchbox or in a backpack or on the mirror above the sink while they're getting ready for school. Just brief reminders for a moment of breathing spread throughout the day. And of course, as you're working with families and you're talking with them about the stress of the world and the things that they're engaged with, help them identify strategies to make their homes a calm, quiet refuge, a place that they're not stressed and chaotic and rushed, so that they have that opportunity to reflect, to center, to have a moment of calm in the midst of the world. There's also some great research that if you regularly practice mindfulness strategies, it does actually have an impact on the neural structure in the brain. There's research with MRIs showing that what we do changes the neurological structure of our brains. And when we work on reacting with a calm approach, we can improve our ability to engage that calm approach. Some interesting research with pain shows that experienced meditators have a reduced receptivity to pain in the brain because they are actually changing the way they react to stimuli. Becoming aware of bodily sensations when you experience a strong emotion, that's a great thing for children. So when you're feeling stressed or angry, where are you physically feeling it? Get out of the whirling, swirling in your head. And I, for instance, know I feel a lot of things in my stomach. I'm a very stomach-focused person in terms of my physicality. So if I'm stressed, I feel tight in my stomach. If I'm angry, my stomach clenches up. Some people feel things in their stomach, some feel it in their neck, some grind their teeth, some clench their fists. But just becoming aware of what is your body feeling, because your body is a concrete anchor to this present moment. So if you're angry, if you're sad, if you're hurt, if you're stressed, get out of the swirl in your head of why you're upset and what could be coming and all the things that are making your mind swirl, and come back to, what am I physically feeling right now? How does my body feel? And then another great practice to begin incorporating mindfulness into your daily life to make those paths stronger and more emphasized is to incorporate mindfulness into the bedtime routine. Perhaps parent and child together do a few minutes of yoga or meditation before a bedtime story. Maybe the bedtime story is a story about breathing. There's a whole lovely selection of yoga and meditation and breathing books that you can buy for children that put it into real world, simple language that help children think about their breathing and how it impacts their body. So you incorporate that mindfulness into the bedtime routine so that you're going to sleep in a calm, centered, quiet way. I think I have maybe one or two more bits and then we'll have some questions. I'd like to do one simple breathing thing here. This is a very simple, literally 1 minute. You just have children and parents together, sit in a comfortable position, and as you breathe in, say, I breathe in. And as you breathe out, I breathe out. And you can use this lovely poem, I breathe deep, I breathe slow, I am calm, I am at ease, I smile, I release. And the focus on is that this moment is a wonderful moment because right now I'm here. I'm centered. I'm grounded. I can feel what I'm feeling. There's some lovely meditation advice that when, thank you, Amanda, for the time reminder. I appreciate that. When we are breathing in and aware that we're breathing in, that is when we experience the most profound truth that we know. Everything else in our world, there's an aspect of perception, of our perspective, of our own experiences, coloring and shading what we feel or think. But when we're breathing in, we know we are actually concretely right now breathing in. So when you experience, I breathe in, and know that you are breathing in, that is a deep core fundamental truth. And the same thing when you breathe out. So your breath, that awareness of your breath, is a lovely way to talk about perception and perspective and to help children think about how the difference between what's in our mind, what's in the environment, what's in other people's minds. And so we learn in that moment what we're doing right now. A lovely strategy that parents can use if they're trying to find a way simply, easily to transform their relationship with their child and to improve that sense of connection is to look at 4 key transition points in the day. You have when you wake up, when you leave the house, when you return to the house, and when you go to sleep. And if you consider being mindful for just 30 seconds at each transition point, that would mean purposefully focusing on just 2 minutes of your day, but have the parent work to engage with the child mindfully when they're waking the child up, to engage with the child mindfully when you're all leaving. So consciously focusing on that moment when you say goodbye to the child at the bus stop or at school as you drop them off, wherever that departure point is. So instead of checking your watch and checking your smartphone and worried about what you need to do and what the traffic is like, for 30 seconds, just focusing on the parent-child interaction in that departure moment. And then when you return to each other, have an actual hug, a moment of looking in each other's eyes, paying attention, actually saying, how was your day? And listening, not correcting, not judging, not changing, but just in that moment, being mindful of each other for 30 seconds. And then the same thing at bedtime, really focusing. It provides that opportunity for being present in the moment. And even if you're doing this on your own, if you're having an individual do this in their own practice for themselves, 2 minutes a day can be a transformative way for them to begin to be aware of the rest of their day. A lovely comment that just posted up about it opens the space and the opportunity. It's creating a deliberate, brief practice that allows you to see the opportunity for more. And I think it's important to start with a small change, because sometimes people are resistant to change because they think it's too much, too hard, too many. You know, people may not begin exercising because, oh, I have to do so much exercise to make a difference and that's just too hard, so I'll do none. But when you share with them the research that a little tiny bit can have an impact, research that a 10-minute walk can reduce blood pressure, that 2 minutes of meditation can actually reduce stress levels. Well, we can find 2 minutes, we can find 10 minutes. And so then you give them the opportunity to do a little bit, and that little bit starts to make them feel concrete differences and changes. And so then they're more open to trying more. But you start with, hey, 30 seconds, 4 times a day. That's all you need to do. Identify these 4 times to really be mindful and focused in your day in how you are and in how you interact with others. And it's very hard to find an excuse to not do 30 seconds. We all can find 30 seconds. And then you start to notice, wow, if when I wake up in the morning, I breathe for 30 seconds, my whole morning routine seems to go more smoothly. It feels better. So it gives you a benefit and a reward, and that makes you motivated to do more and to keep trying and to keep engaging mindfully with your day. A nice meditation to try is ragdoll meditation before sleeping. This is a great one to do at bedtime for children and for parents. Parents can do it with the child, and you have the child lay down and you very gently walk through that you're becoming a soft, squishy ragdoll, and that with each breath, you're closing your eyes a little deeper and you become softer and floppier, and your cloth head is flopping on the pillow. And it can be a lovely, fun activity that parents can do with their children to help them relax at bedtime, to help them snuggle in. There's been some very lovely research at bedtime about insomnia, that when you focus on relaxing words, on soft sensations, it can help you to fall asleep and to sleep more deeply. And of course, one of the very strong areas of research for yoga and meditation is that it has a very powerful impact on both sleep duration and sleep quality. So when children are not sleeping well, that has a negative impact on behavior. Some of the research around attention disorders show that when children are sleep deprived, they exhibit attention disordered behavior. And when they get more sleep, their behavior improves. And that's true both for typically developing children and for children who do have attentional issues. And so if you work with children to go to bed earlier and to get more sleep and to sleep more effectively, behavior improves. And of course, the difficult cycle is when children aren't getting enough sleep and their adrenaline and their hormones are all running crazy. It's harder for them to fall asleep. So giving parents purposeful strategies to help them relax and fall asleep can be a way to transform that sleep relationship. And meditation before bed is great. And having the child pretend to be a rag doll or a stuffed animal is a very low threat, fun way that the parent and child can, again, play and have fun and relax into the bedtime routine, so that the bedtime routine becomes a fun mindful, connective experience instead of a stressful experience of it's time for bed, I don't want to go to bed, it's time for bed. You transform that into a positive experience between parent and child. So I think we are at about the question point. I'm happy to address whatever questions, comments, feedback everyone has. I do have some resources to share as well, but let's pause and ask questions if you want to type them over, if you want to unmute and ask. I know we've had lots of good commentary on the side as we've been going, so I hope we have some good questions today as well. Yes, I think for the current world situation, it is definitely a place where we need to work with children on being mindful. And I've seen some very lovely research about the challenges of, there was a situation in, I think it was in Canada, there was like a hostage situation in a school. And the parents were texting the children, oh my gosh, are you okay? I see that the school is on lockdown. It was like a high school, so many of the kids had cell phones. But the school itself was telling the children, this is just a practice, etc. And so the children were getting very mixed messages between what the institution was saying and what the parents were saying. And I'm blanking a bit on where this was, but I know it's been within the last couple of months. And but it brought up a good conversation about how do we share dangerous things with children in an authentic way that doesn't scare them. And so I think that the point is that as we've got a lot of dangerous things in the world right now around terrorism and weather, and there's so many things that children are going to be stressed about, and we can work with them on ways that they can control what they can control, they can be aware of how they're feeling, and we can help them learn mindfulness and reflection in their daily life. I'm looking at benefits starting with a newborn or infant. Oh, I think so. I think it's such a lovely strategy for when you have a newborn. Infant massage in particular can be a lovely way to help young children to relax and feel calmer, and it can help babies to sleep better. I think a big benefit when you've got a newborn or an infant is to help the mom in particular, because of course, as you're coming out of your postpartum period and you've got all the hormones and you're trying to survive on so much less sleep, and perhaps you're nursing, meditation can be a wonderful practice to help a mother and a father in the early time with a newborn to stay calm, and then model that sense of being calm for the baby as the baby becomes older. When I had my babies, I found that sometimes nursing was the one place where I could just sit and be quiet. So I liked to rock and breathe and be very calm and meditative when I was nursing. And I think that can be a great strategy for parents with very young children. And let me I'm looking now at some of the other questions. Yes, I think the comment that it's so hard when parents see other adults not being mindful, or if you as a mental health practitioner seeing parents not being mindful. I think that's absolutely true, and it's very, very challenging when you see that. And I think sometimes we can model for the other adults in our lives. We can model for our children the language that they can use. We can, when we see our children have to interact with someone who's not being mindful, perhaps it can be challenging if it's a friend or another family member, and perhaps we can try to coach the language and say, oh, it seems like Aunt so-and-so is very stressed. How could we help? And what could we say to help make her feel better, so that we're working with our children to engage and be aware of other people's emotions? Because of course, empathy is is a part of mindfulness. It's a part of noticing how other people are feeling, and that's something that we can do when we actually are in the present moment. Recommendations on mindfulness and grief with teenagers. I don't off the top of my head have some books on mindfulness and grief with teenagers, but I will absolutely look for some. If you want to send me a note, or I don't know, Amanda, if we have resources that send out after, I can find some books that are specifically relevant for teenagers. I'd be happy to pull some recommendations, and I'll share that. So many different methods of meditation. Is there a way to start or study that you recommend without having to study a methodology? You know, I truly love a breathing strategy that's called Anapana meditation, and it's focusing on the nose. And I think it's a very simple way to focus a breathing strategy. So you sit however you feel comfortable, and as you breathe out, you try to feel the exhale through your nostrils. And as you breathe in, you try to feel the inhale through your nostrils. And when you're breathing, your nose is a great anchor point because your breath is coming in and out through your nose. So you try to feel, how does it feel on the hair inside my nose, and how does my breath feel? And it's just such a simple strategy. You can do it anywhere. Some of the meditation practices will have you do that for an hour at a time, but you could just do it for 1 or 2 minutes. But it's a very simple, concrete, physical form of meditation. And many people find when they begin to meditate that their mind wanders in a million directions. So having something physical to focus on can be a great strategy. So I love the nose-based breathing strategy of just breathing in and out through your nose, feeling your breath in and out through your nose. And every time your mind wanders, you bring it back to your nose. You consider your nose your anchor in the ocean of your thoughts, just coming back to your nose over and over and over. Related to another question related to the Kung Fu experiences with family. How do you prepare families for those experiences of regression, regressive behaviors? That's a great question. And I think that is where you really have to, as the therapist, as the practitioner, be very, very mindful of the people that you're working with. Is it a family that you can do that kind of an activity? Nina and Rives shared, for instance, the dodge and block that, some families you might use a ball, but other families you might only use a balloon to make sure that nobody can get hurt. And you're really paying attention to the family dynamic so that, and you have to be paying attention to the conversation that's going on. Do it in your supportive environment so that if you start to notice the tone shift, you can intervene, offer some coaching, some guidance, and make sure that it stays a safe, supportive environment for everyone. So you'll want to make sure you have debriefing time afterwards, that you have time to work through anything that comes up. Certainly something that you as the therapist need to consider, the family in particular. Any advice on mindfulness to help address the current? I love the note about parents not using cell phones when picking up or dropping off children. That's lovely. And I saw a note about teenage sexuality. I think that's a very big, complicated question. That's not one of my areas of expertise, but I do think that just teaching children and teens to be reflective and mindful and centered on who they are will better help them to be comfortable in who they are and to be resistant to bullying by others about who they are, and to connect with their inner core in a way that they are accepting of themselves. So I think mindfulness, whenever we're talking about helping children figure out who they are, what matters to them, can be a useful strategy for that sense of self-awareness. I see several very nice comments, so I want to thank you all very much for the positive feedback. I appreciate that. It's been a lovely session. You all have been very, very helpful with questions and commentary, and feedback off to the side to help me tailor and address input as you're bringing up. Amanda, how are we on our last bits of time? Thank you. I appreciate the feedback. I'm glad that you found this to be a mindfulness session as well, and that you were able to have a moment of calm. I hope that you were able to reflect this morning and have this be a nice start to your day. And I love the book resources that several of you are sharing. There are many wonderful books out there. There's a lovely book by Dr. Laura Markham, Peaceful Parent, Happy Child, I believe is the title. I may have that off slightly, but it's about when you come to parenting from a mindfulness perspective, how you can help your children to be happier and more centered and more reflective. I always like that book. Dr. Laura Markham, Markham. There's also a couple of books about childhood anxiety by Tamar Chomsky. I will share with Amanda a couple of resources to make sure that I've got them shared. But that book, the childhood anxiety books, also have some lovely resources. I will pop up for you really quickly. If you have questions or comments or feedback, you can reach me at info@drkimberleebonura.com. You can reach Dr. Nina Spadaro and Rives Thornton at impacteducationtherapy@gmail.com. We're so grateful for you attending and sharing with us your insight and perspective, and we're happy to answer any questions or follow-up perspective you may have. We do have some resources of books that are helpful and insightful. I love If the Buddha Had Kids by Charlotte Kossel. I love all of her books. If the Buddha Married, If the Buddha Dated. They're very helpful about how to take a mindfulness perspective and how we interact with other people. The Ursula Unwinds Her Anger is a lovely book for children that it puts it in a child perspective. So is Moody Cow Meditates. Some resources here. And we also have some academic references for things you might want to look at, reviews of approaches that can be helpful, empirical studies. Carrie, I'm not teaching a local class right now, but thank you for inquiring. I know you're in my general area. Yes, I will be happy to provide the references out, and the couple of additional questions that were for some other books and areas I will look for and offer those out as well. Absolutely. Any other last questions? Any other resources anyone else would like me to look for to share when we share out references and content? Well, I thank you all so very much for joining me today and for taking time out of your Sunday morning. And if you're anywhere in the Southeast, I'm glad that you're safe and have working power, and I hope everyone stays safe and comfortable and has a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for making my Sunday morning so pleasant and lovely. It's been a very positive morning, and I am grateful for your presence with me this morning. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you for joining me to learn more about mindfulness research and best practices. If you like my content, please subscribe to my channel to stay updated for new videos. I'll see you next time.